Ilia has a chance to knock anyone out. You know, he's got solid hands and very, very dangerous. And he's got a very good focus. So even when things aren't going his way, he's still, you know, he's got like this tunnel vision of, I'm going to find this shot.
MMA pros have just reacted to the new scary training footage of Ilia Topuria ahead of his fight with Charles Oliveira. Alexander Volkanovski spoke about Ilia Topuria's power and focus, saying Ilia has the ability to knock anyone out. He praised Ilia's sharp hands and mental strength, noting that even when things are not going well in a fight, Ilia stays focused and keeps looking for the perfect shot. Volkanovski explained that most fighters start to doubt themselves if they keep missing punches, but Ilia remains calm and keeps trying. He said that kind of focus is dangerous because one clean shot from Ilia can end a fight, even against top lightweights.
Ilia has a chance to knock anyone out. You know, he's got solid hands and very, very dangerous. And he's he's got a very good focus. So even when things aren't going his way, he's still, you know, he's got like this tunnel vision of, I'm going to find this shot. And that's dangerous when you've got a guy like you. You're like jabbing him up, jabbing, he's missing shots. Some people usually start to like, oh, I better watch out, I better not throw shots until I know they're there, you know, start second guessing themselves. I don't know if I've seen that in Ilia. So when you've got someone that's that stoic through that process, you know, he could definitely find that shot. And if he does, he could put anyone even in the lightweight division out.
Volkanovski also talked about how Charles Oliveira could give Ilia a different challenge. He said Charles is not likely to back down or move backward, which is something Ilia might not be used to. Volkanovski thinks Ilia is not as strong when he is forced to fight on the back foot, and that his timing and shot selection change in those situations. He said that watching how Ilia adjusts to pressure from Charles will be interesting. While Ilia might still land some good shots, Volkanovski feels Charles could make things difficult by staying aggressive.
He's going to find tough guys. I don't think Charles Oliveira is going to be on the back foot at all. I think he's going to, you know, that's something that'll be different for Ilia. I don't think he's ever had someone be like, nah, jam forward as well, if that makes sense. So we'll see how Ilia goes if he's on the back foot. I think I've seen him a couple of times where he had to go on the back foot a little bit. He just doesn't have the same shots, you know, have his same strikes, or, you know, his game plan to find the shots just changes a little bit, and I think it throws him off a little bit. So I think earlier on, seeing that adjustment will be interesting, because I think Charles is going to come with, even though he's high, there would be opportunities for Ilia to land, but I feel like he maybe, if Ilia's on the back foot, let's see how it goes there.
Moreover, John Anik said he is excited to see if Ilia Topuria can knock out another legend like Charles Oliveira. He questioned why Oliveira is not getting more respect, pointing out that Justin Gaethje called Charles the hardest hitter he ever faced. Anik mentioned that the odds and many experts favor Topuria, but Charles is still one of the greatest finishers in UFC history. He added that Topuria has been praised by fighters like Kenny Florian, and now has a big chance to prove himself with less weight cutting and a possible title on the line.
Can Topuria do it again and knock out another legend?
Dude, is Ilia Topuria getting the red corner? I mean, my goodness, can we put some respect on the name Charles Oliveira? No, it's a fascinating fight. Yes, Justin Gaethje, who's the hardest man he's ever been hit by in all of his fights, and it's Charles Oliveira. And I'm just excited to see what Charles can do, because the betting line suggests that he's up against it. A lot of Charles's contemporaries are suggestive that this is a custom-made matchup for Ilia Topuria. He's taken on the most decorated finisher in UFC history and the man who reigns supreme atop this weight class. So fascinated to see it. And I think my biggest takeaway with Topuria is just the way guys like Kenny Florian talk about him in such superlative terms. And, you know, we'll see if he can live up to the hype. I'm excited to see him in a division, not cut too much weight. And, yeah, great way to sort of usher him in, headlining International Fight Week for the soon-to-be vacant UFC lightweight title.
However, Ilia Topuria sent a harsh warning to Charles Oliveira in a training clip, making it clear he intends to dominate the fight from the start. He expressed full confidence in his power and strategy, saying Oliveira's experience will not save him. Topuria promised to finish the fight early and prove he belongs at the top. Moreover, Sean O'Malley shared his thoughts on the upcoming fight between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, saying it feels like a coin toss. He explained that his heart leans toward Oliveira because of his experience and toughness, but his mind favors Topuria due to his momentum and power. O'Malley noted that Charles tends to get hit and Topuria hits hard, making the matchup especially dangerous. He expressed genuine excitement for the fight, calling it one of the most thrilling matchups ahead.
Could I get your read on how Topuria versus Oliveira plays out?
Man, that's one where your heart's telling you, you know, Charles, and your brain's telling you Ilia. It's just that one's a coin flip. Can't count Charles out. Ilia's on an absolute tear. You know, Charles does get hit and Ilia cracks. That fight I am very excited for.
Gilbert Burns shared his take on Charles Oliveira's weaknesses, explaining that Oliveira's aggressive style can leave him exposed in close-range exchanges. Burns pointed out that Charles is vulnerable in the clinch, especially against opponents who use sharp elbows and knees. His upright posture and wild striking also make him susceptible to counters. Burns, with his strong striking and grappling, stressed the importance of staying defensively sharp against such threats.
Let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
What's Charles Oliveira's weakness?
Charles Oliveira weakness.
Someone who can defend the grappling, has elite boxing, power in their hands.
Not the grappling. People are just thinking Charles Oliveira is Demian Maia. He's not.
No, I don't think that at all. But he has that high guard on the feet.
Yeah,
He's got
how
good head
about the
movement.
knees coming on a small guy? How about the elbows? How about the clinching, avoiding the boxing?
I still think the head kick's the best way to get Ilia. We saw
I know,
in the Jai
but
Herbert
think
fight.
about the clinch, the knees coming.
Yeah.
The elbows, that Oliveira.
I just feel like
clinch,
that's going to leave him
boom,
susceptible to
guillotine.
get a big hook to the chin in that situation.
I don't think so, bro.
Really? So you're picking Charles?
He's a close fight than people think. I both are my guys, you know, so it's kind of suck for me to pick a side, but I'm just saying that he's way closer fight than people think.
Yeah.
Bro. Like,
but do you think Ilia it's a better matchup for Ilia than Islam, obviously?
He also spoke about the upcoming fight involving Oliveira, saying it's hard for him to pick a side due to his connections with both fighters. Still, Burns believes the matchup is far more even than fans think. In his view, both men bring elite skill, and a small mistake could decide the winner.
So you're picking Charles?
He's a close fight than people think. Both are my guys, you know, so it's kind of suck for me to pick a side, but I'm just saying that he's way closer fight than people think.
Renato Moicano shared his thoughts on the upcoming clash between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, calling it a much tighter contest than many assume. Though some see Topuria as the clear favorite, Moicano highlighted Oliveira's toughness and finishing ability. He also mentioned that Topuria's move up in weight adds new challenges. Moicano initially leaned toward Topuria, but after talking with Charles on his Brazilian podcast, he felt more personally connected. In the end, he's backing Oliveira both for his talent and as a show of support for a fellow Brazilian.
You're fighting on the Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria card. Charles is a big underdog. How do you see that fight going?
Man, that's a tougher matchup that a lot of people think. They think Topuria gonna run through Charles. You never count Charles Oliveira out. I think he's very tough. But Topuria is good, you know? He's 145. It's going to be a tough fight for both fighters. I don't have an opinion on that. I was leaning more to Topuria, but today I just had a podcast with Charles on my Brazilian channel. It's just very hard to not like the guy. That makes harder, you know, to pick against him. So I'm going with Charles just because he's Brazilian.
Mateus Gamrot shared his prediction for UFC 317, backing Charles Oliveira to earn a knockout victory over Ilia Topuria. He acknowledged Topuria's power, but believes Oliveira's reach, striking, and experience at lightweight will be too much for the featherweight moving up. Gamrot expects Oliveira to end the fight before it goes the distance.
Who do you think wins, Ilia or Charles?
Interesting matchup. The both guys has changed. Like if Ilia hit Charles Oliveira head, so he can knock him down for sure. But I think Oliveira is so big for him and for all-rounder fighter, and I think Oliveira will win this fight.
He also called it a competitive matchup, but leaned slightly toward Oliveira. While Topuria has one-punch power, Gamrot highlighted Oliveira's grappling and size as major advantages. If the fight goes to the ground, he thinks Oliveira's submission skills could prove decisive despite the Brazilian's sometimes unpredictable style.
Wow, you think Oliveira's gonna win? I haven't heard a lot of people say that.
I think so. I think so. He's big. It depends how his performance will be in the fight, because sometimes he looks bad, but sometimes he looks fantastic. So I think that in the ground he will be much better for Ilia. Especially like the gabarit is much different. Oliveira is big guy. Ilia is small guy. So if Oliveira catch him in the ground, I think this is gonna be big problem. But like I say, Ilia can knock him out for him also, you know. So this is like 50-50, but I think Oliveira will win.
Ian Gary shared his thoughts on Ilia Topuria, calling him a dangerous fighter who was already a major threat at featherweight and now even more powerful with the extra weight. He also praised Charles Oliveira for always delivering exciting fights, describing him as one of the most entertaining athletes in the sport.
I think Ilia is a very dangerous opponent, and getting an extra 10 pounds, that's a dangerous person, and he was dangerous at featherweight. Oh God, when Charles goes out there and does trials, it's just the most entertaining fighter we've seen. There's never a dull fight.
Javier Mendez mentioned he would place his bet on Ilia Topuria to beat Charles Oliveira, although his personal preference is for Oliveira to win. Mendez noted that Charles maintains a very straight posture, which could play into Topuria's hands due to his compact stance and forward-moving boxing style. He highlighted Topuria's ability to connect clean punches to the chin, as shown in his victory over Josh Emmett. According to Mendez, if the two fighters meet inside the octagon, Topuria would likely have more opportunities to come out victorious than Oliveira.
Ilia, power puncher, boxer, low stance versus Charles Oliveira. If someone gave you $100,000 to bet on that fight, who would you bet?
Ilia. But if you're asking who I would want to win, I'll put Charles. I'll put my money on Charles.
Yeah.
It's basically because Charles is going to stand in there upright, like you're saying, and Ilia's got a really good way of connecting with that chin. Really, really nice. Just like what he did with Volk. Ilia's got more opportunities than Charles does.
Javier Mendez further stated that he favors Ilia Topuria to win against Charles Oliveira thanks to his precise short-range boxing and ability to land heavy, accurate strikes. He explained that Oliveira's taller build makes him more open to getting hit, and that it would be difficult to take Topuria down unless Oliveira times his knees or front kicks effectively. Even though Oliveira can use his reach and powerful kicks to his advantage, Mendez still thinks Topuria has a wider range of tactics to get the win.
Why else do you think you would pick Ilia over Charles? What is it about his skill set that you like more?
It's basically because Charles is going to stand in there upright, like you're saying, and when he gets inside, he's going to use that boxing, and Charles' head's going to be up, and Ilia's got a really good way of connecting with that chin on the inside. Really, really nice. Just like what he did with Volk, you know, and I think if Charles doesn't get him up the middle with knees or front kicks up the middle, he's going to have a hard time with his boxing against him, and he's going to have a hell of a time trying to take him down. So it's going to be one of those where Ilia's got more opportunities than Charles does. But Charles can surprise us with his length, you know, and up the middle would be really, really well suited for him. And the kicks too, you know, body, head type thing, you know, low, high. You know, he could do really well with that.
Khamzat Chimaev spoke highly of Ilia Topuria's skills and success in the UFC. He remembered training with Ilia back when they were both at All Stars Gym, long before Topuria became well known. Chimaev recalled that even in their early Brave FC days, Ilia was competing at an elite level. He admired Topuria's serious attitude and ambition, saying it was clear from the beginning that Ilia was aiming for greatness. And now he has almost reached the highest point a fighter can reach in MMA.
Очень известный сейчас боец. Ты с ним вроде как давно знаком. Он тренировался в Альстаре вместе, вот до еще его всей известности. Когда вот тренировки ты его видел, ты видел этот потенциал будущий?
Ну, конечно, ну просто тогда, в то время, этот был он хорошим топовым бойцом в Брейве, и как и я, мы оба там выступали. Видно было, потому что он такой пахарь и хочет добиться чего-то в своей жизни. И парень добился всех высот, которые можно в этом спорте добиться.
Robert Whittaker said the lightweight division is currently the most exciting in the UFC, especially with Ilia Topuria joining the roster. He brought up Topuria's statement that the UFC promised him a title shot if he vacated his featherweight title. Whittaker believes that champions moving to a new weight class deserve an immediate chance against top names. However, he also pointed out that this could be disappointing for other fighters who have worked hard to rise in the ranking. He ended by saying that the UFC will likely go with the option that brings in the most money.
I think the lightweight division is the most exciting division right now. It's just death row in the lightweight division at the moment. Like the top 5, dude, that guard up there right now, it's just killers, man.
But especially with Ilia Topuria entering the mix, right? The whole big story over the past week was he obviously vacated the title at featherweight, but apparently he said the UFC told him, we promise you a title opportunity if you vacate. That's what he told Spanish media. Or I think he said as a backup he would fight Charles Oliveira. And now they've gone back and forth. What do you reckon, Rob?
I don't know what was promised or anything, but I feel like if you're in a lower division and you vacate the title, you should go straight to the top of the pecking order. I'd like to see him go straight into a title shot. Okay. Understandably, it can be tricky that way because there are a lot of guys, like, styles make fights. So if the champion of a lighter division has a better style to beat the guy in the high division, where's the fairness of that? Because that guy may not get through 10 guys to get to a title shot. He may not get through the contenders. Yeah, I just feel like there should be a certain amount of weight for being the champion of the division already. I can also see the side of the argument for the guys in the division that have been like, brother, like, I've had to slog, especially in the lightweight division, like, I've had to slog my way to the top of this division, and it is death row there. I think UFC's going to do what makes them the most money.
Tim Welch pointed out that Charles Oliveira uses a tall Muay Thai stance and moves forward with strong knees and high kick. Since both Oliveira and Ilia Topuria prefer pressuring their opponents, Welch expects them to meet aggressively in the center. He explained that Ilia's shorter frame and tendency to dip his head might expose him to Oliveira's knees. However, Welch also highlighted Ilia's sharp body punches and quick transitions to the head. He added that while a head kick knockout from Oliveira wouldn't shock him, no matter what happens, the fight promises to be action-packed.
Charles, he just stands so high. He has like this Muay Thai stance. He marches forward with knees. He whips head kicks. Both the guys like to come forward and back the person up. So they're gonna collide. And there's ways. Ilia's so fucking short. He tilts his head. He ducks his head. There's ways those knees could line up very easily and drop Ilia Topuria. But again, the way he stands so tall and the way Ilia punches to the body so well and then hides him and comes up top. It's gonna be a banger.
What if Charles got a head kick knockout on Topuria?
I mean, I wouldn't.
Little switch, bank.
Wouldn't be that surprised.
Right?
I just wouldn't. But that's gonna be a banger.
Anthony Smith explained that when top-level fighters like Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira compete, the outcome usually depends on who has more holes in their defense. He believes Oliveira fits that description, noting how frequently Charles gets hit and engages in risky exchanges. Smith praised Topuria's precise boxing, strong body work, and smart leg kicks. He described Ilia as disciplined and highly intelligent in the cage. According to Smith, Oliveira may struggle to avoid damage when standing, and even if the fight goes to the ground, he doubts Charles will have a clear advantage there either.
I typically look at, when you get two guys like these two that are very, very good, then you start looking at their defensive responsibilities and who has the larger deficiency. That's 100% Charles Oliveira. He's so hittable. Yeah. He loves to fight into wars. Ilia Topuria does not engage in bullshit. He's super crisp, very, very clean boxer, but goes to the body well, leg kicks really well, so strategic and so well thought out, and has an incredibly high fight IQ. I just don't know how Charles Oliveira stays safe in any kind of striking range, fighting the way that he fights with Ilia Topuria. I just think that he's going to get hit hard. He's going to get hurt. And I don't know that he can take down Ilia Topuria. And if he did, I don't know that he would out-grapple him anymore.
Michael Chandler said the fight is difficult to call. He sees Charles Oliveira as a very complete and talented fighter who is always tough to beat. At the same time, he acknowledges Ilia Topuria's powerful hands and sharp striking. Chandler thinks Topuria might have the upper hand when it comes to striking, but he also understands how well-rounded Oliveira is. Having faced Oliveira twice himself, Chandler respects his grit and ability in every area of the fight. He believes this matchup is exciting and could go either way, with both men posing serious threat.
Who do you think is going to win?
Man, it's tough. You don't bet against freaking Charles Oliveira because he's so dang good everywhere, and he's a really hard guy to beat. With that being said, Ilia Topuria's got some crazy power in his hands and crazy accurate strikes. So it'll be very interesting to see how that fight goes. You got to think that the striking department, it leans toward Ilia, but Charles is tough everywhere, man. Obviously, fighting him twice, I know.
MMA Guru and Demetrius Johnson both shared their views on the possible fight between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. MMA Guru said the matchup would likely sell very well on pay-per-view, even without a title involved, and he found the pairing exciting but raised questions about how Topuria will handle the jump to 155 pounds. Demetrius Johnson commented on Topuria's size, noting that he walks around close to 191 pounds. Johnson said it was surprising that Topuria ever made featherweight and believes the lightweight division suits him better. He also mentioned that it's always fun to watch top fighters test themselves in new weight classes.
If Ilia Topuria fights Charles Oliveira on a pay-per-view, that's a big deal.
Oh, it's gonna be a banger.
They don't need to wait for an interim belt. They don't need to wait for an undisputed. So yeah, I don't know how he's gonna do it lightweight though. Maybe you can speak on that. He's a smaller guy coming up.
It's a smaller coming up. It'll be interesting because he is bigger. From when I heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast, like 191, I think he was walking around. It's massive. So for him to cut to 145 seems almost like, how did he do that? But now that he's going from 155, I always like when athletes go up.
That's it for today's video. So what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about this fight? Share your thoughts in the comments section and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Also, check out our other videos on the screen right now.